We're back on Clout 941 with Jamie Purmort. More. Before we get to questions about Citizens, I want to ask you a question just about, in general, the state getting involved in setting rates. You are a private company. You do business in Florida, but the state in the insurance industry sets in and tells you how much you can charge, basically. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, basically, right. We're a heavily regulated industry. The state has the Office of Insurance Regulation. When a carrier or an insurance company wants to come into the state or raise rates, they have to file rates with the state. They get reviewed by the Office of Insurance Regulation, who approves or disapproves or rejects those rates. So, you know,
how long has that been the case? I mean, forever?
That has been the case for quite a while. It's a double-edged sword. It was meant as a means to keep insolvent insurers or bad insurers from coming into the state, but what it's morphed into is this really draconian measure to keep rate increases from ever happening ever.
And that's one of the reasons why we read in the paper State Farm is talking about pulling out of Florida, or is pulling out.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
That's absolutely right.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But one of the responses to Hurricane Charlie was, I suppose, the state set up this Citizens Property Insurance. Can you tell us, the viewers, what the original concept of that was?
Right. The original concept of Citizens was to be an insurer of last resort for policyholders that couldn't find coverage elsewhere. And it really started to come into play after Hurricane Andrew. It saw more of a blossoming after Charlie because, well, there was a reluctance after Charlie to provide that windstorm coverage on the coast for certain risks, as we talked about, that were older or pre-94 or were located in designated windstorm areas.
And so the fund was set up to theoretically, to insure people where companies wouldn't insure them at all.
Correct. Where they could not find windstorm coverage or all other peril coverage out there in the free market, Citizens was meant as a backstop to provide them a minimal amount of coverage.
And it was designed really to only insure a small number of homes?
Correct.
Now, where is it now, today?
Now it's either the largest or the second largest insurer in the state of Florida.
Why is that?
Part of it has been because of the ability for people to get into Citizens. Before, they had to have rejections of different offers from other carriers just to be eligible. Well, the legislature and Governor Christ broadened those restrictions, which would allow more people in there. The other thing they did was they froze rates in Citizens in 2005, which has made it a very attractive offer premium-wise for people who either couldn't find or weren't able to locate coverage elsewhere.
So homeowners can just jump into the state's Citizens Fund rather than purchase their own private insurance and actually perhaps save money?
Well, there are some checks in the block that they have to do to be eligible for Citizens, but they're a lot less stringent than they were pre-Charlie.
And what about the ability of Citizens to actually pay for a major catastrophe?
Well, the funny thing is, if you were to pick up your insurance policy now, you'd see that we're still paying in assessments for damage that was caused in the 2004-2005 storm season. So if that's any reflection of their ability to pay claims, I would say that they have none.
So you think that people who have their homeowners insurance with Citizens, if there's a major hurricane, could have some trouble getting a check to cover if their home's destroyed?
Not only could they or potentially have trouble, but you and I and everyone else in the state of Florida could be assessed to help pay for those claims, whether we have a Citizens policy or not.
Wow. They could just assess everybody else with private homeowners insurance to pay for the ones who were with Citizens.
Correct. It's being done right now. It's being done today for 2004, 2005, 4 years later.
Wow. Didn't know that. Is that the reason why Warren Buffett, what was the deal on that, where Warren Buffett was paid a bunch of money to step in?
Yeah, the state basically paid $220 million to Warren Buffett for the right to go and get some bonds to shore up a perceived shortfall in our Florida catastrophe fund. Those bonds would be used to basically help provide a backstop for private insurers. And there's a shortfall. Today there's a shortfall in that CAT fund.
Are we still doing that every year? Paying him every year?
Not this year.
Oh.
But this year we have a new problem with the CAT fund, and that it's about to, if the legislatures don't figure out a way to shore it up before May 15th, the rating agencies are going to move in and probably downgrade a lot of Florida-specific insurers, which is going to cause a ripple effect through their mortgages.
What do you think the solution to this is? Obviously, you don't agree with the way that the governor is handling the insurance problem in Florida.
I don't.
What is it specifically that you disagree with?
Well, I think you have to allow a free market system. You have to allow some form of capitalism to prevail in the insurance marketplace. If a policy is offered at a higher rate, I don't have to buy it. I can go look somewhere. But eventually, people will see the value in an A-plus rated carrier, or a carrier that has a known name like a Hartford or a Liberty Mutual or any of the larger carriers like USA that are out there. And they'll feel comfortable spending a little bit more money to have that peace of mind in the claims paying ability.
So you think the solution to this problem is less regulation, open up the marketplace, and that will cause more companies maybe to come into Florida if it's not so heavily regulated by the state?
What there needs to be is more competition. So as those carriers start to come in, eventually what you'll see is they'll start competing for business. When they start competing for business, rates normally would go down.
And the reason why they're not coming in is because of the way that the state is handling it.
Absolutely. It's a very, they used to be able to kind of negotiate, and now they really have to arbitrate to get any sort of rate.
All right, when we come back, we'll have our final segment with Jamie Purmort, and we'll have our Weasel of the Week.